an increase that we couldn't afford in the budget for this year. It's a short-term solution. We've continued to support community organizations at levels we've done in the past. Reserve contribution levels have been maintained. And as I mentioned before, we've also increased our contributions to reserve for capital replacement renewal. The first increment in that was $42,000. And then there was a slight increase to our roads capital reserve to bring it up to the levels that we had targeted. So that was bringing that level up to $300,000 contribution. Special projects that are included in the budget, there was recreation master plan, park master plan, the rockfall hazard mitigation works, as I mentioned, and tangible capital asset project. What was cut from the base operations, these are the minor adjustments that we made to the current level of service, was concerts by the sea. Some of the recreation courses were reduced for this year. The environmental incentive development permit area was, the budget was reduced because it was felt it could be accomplished in-house. And then our miscellaneous accounts, this was arbitrary and just across the board in cuts, and that amounted to $10,000 cut in the overall budget. Some new programs that were indicated, what we would call demand for new programs, they were considered, and we decided that we could not put them in the first cut or in 2009 because we couldn't do them within the framework the council had given us. Those new works were the OCP review, which we had proposed to fund in 2010 and 11 instead. Some of the improvements were the youth dance space improvements, the E-HOG, as it's called, Homer Grant, electronic Homer Grant implementation, which is an enhancement to our service. And the tangible capital asset project, we had budgeted or wanted to budget for some assistance to that, and we cut that, hoping that council will make it a priority so that we can get it accomplished this year, which is required. So phase 1 was approved in December. Phase 2 includes works under construction, which I'll explain next. The community grant process, the review of the 2.5, a town hall meeting. Hello, and here we are. So works that are under construction are capital program review, the general capital program review, the major projects or the significant projects in there right now are the roads capital renewal needs to be looked at, and specifically with respect to how much work we need to do and how much more we need to put away in the future to sustain that. The synthetic turf field project, Tunstall boat launch, and fire equipment replacement, all of which are proposed to be funded from reserves. So none of them have a direct effect on the tax level this year. Strategic planning and capital review, we have had a meeting, 2 meetings to discuss this, and some priorities have come out of it, so that's tied up very well. 2 of those priorities are the replacement of our temporary CAO. OCP review process was given priority status, so that's brought into the 2009 budget. And what we're doing now is starting to how to fund those things within the framework the council has given us. And the capital component of that work under construction is the major capital projects that are on the horizon of the council, but that we haven't identified how we're going to go about doing them or how we're going to fund them. And what has come out of that planning process so far is the need for a capital plan to be developed to address the needs of these significant projects. So it's the fire emergency building, replacement, community center development, sewer treatment plant expansion, ferry marshalling and parking, and now the community demands disposition. What we're going to do with community demand. Sources of changes in the budget, there's a slight increase in revenues, 0.5%, an increase in expenses, 3.6% net increase, 4% of that net increase is salary and benefits. Contributions to reserves are 2.9%. I've already mentioned roads and infrastructure increase, the capital to capital replacement renewal fund, the initiation of that fund, and the increase in equipment replacement for the replacement of our equipment in the future. Total increase in 2009, this is getting down to the bottom line, which everybody is very interested in. The effect of what has been proposed and what the guidelines are is about a $62 increase on the average assessment. And also included in this plan is an increase in parcel tax. That being said, a lot of what we proposed is proposed to come from our reserves. So it's not fair to mention it's just a $60-odd tax increase. The other effect is we're using up some of our reserves within this plan. And the one important thing to consider here is that everything in this plan, this 5-year plan, is predicated upon the notion that we will be selling premium land. And we will recover enough money in that process to replenish reserves that we have used, to further those plans, but also put it back into capital improvements. And in this plan, it is contemplated at this point that all of that money will go back into development of civic facilities in one way or the other. So these are discretionary reserves, what people would call accumulated surplus. And you can see there, this is a big concern of how much accumulated surplus we have. We need it for working capital, so we have to maintain a sufficient balance for that. The big red bulge in there is the capital and stabilization fund. And this demonstrates very clearly what happens to that fund through using that money in furthering plans for our strategic planning process. They will get transformed later into capital. And this is the restricted reserves. These are the ones that are statutory reserves, can only be used for the purpose that they were initiated for. They're set by bylaw. And you see that interesting little spike there in the middle? That is demonstrating the money that we anticipate coming in from the sale of lands and going right back out into the capital. So bring it in and bang, it's gone. But the thing that I wanted in both of these slides to illustrate is that within this plan, although we are using quite a bit of what we have saved for in the past, we're also saving in the future. You can see the trend line is going up, and we have significant plans for saving for all those things I mentioned earlier, capital renewal and roads, community parks. Now, whether or not we're saving sufficient amounts is going to determine through the process of the recreation master plan, parks master plan, and other planning. But at the moment, we have planned to save some. I will be through. What are you plan?
You're at the 15-minute mark.
Is that right? Because I'm done. This is just a pie chart that shows you what we spend money on, not what departments, but what activities we spend our money on. So I thought it was really interesting to show it this way so you realize that 30% of what municipalities spend is spent in salary and benefits. 19% of our operations are contracted. We spend about 13% in capital. Now this is based on our last audited year, which is 2007. And the capital expenditure portion is the one that will be the most volatile in that pie chart. Maintenance, we spend about 12%. Special projects and planning about 6%, and that includes strategic planning. Community grants account for about 5% of our budget, and everything else amounts to about 15%. That's rents, education, travel, utilities, and interest. And yeah. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Joanne. Are there questions in the